Gamblers, come out to play. Gamblers, come out to play. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor and I'll be your host as we go through all the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to that in the description below and it'll give you a pretty good idea of what the Horror Movie Syllabus is all about, but in short, we look at a particular subgenre of horror and then we pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But this is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series. This is where I take a recommendation from you guys, something that you've recommended in the comments to one of my previous videos, something that I've never seen before, a horror movie I've never seen before. I watch it for the first time, and then I let you know, is it syllabus-worthy? Is it something that is interesting enough, notorious enough, good enough to be on the horror movie syllabus? And today the movie we're looking at is The Domestics. The Domestics was recommended to me by my friend Steve. He did it actually offline. He didn't do it on the on any of the comments at the end of the videos. He just told me about this movie and thought it would be up my alley. He told me that it was a post-apocalyptic movie, kind of action-packed, and would be something that would scratch my itch, would be something that I would tend to like. And that was it. But he's brought it up a couple of times. So I've been meaning to get around to it for a while now, finally getting around to it now. And it's interesting because this is a movie that doesn't seem like it has a lot of people talking about it, but it does fit into a subgenre, if you will, a post-apocalyptic subgenre that is pretty well known, pretty popular, pretty robust at the stage. In fact, we're going to be doing a post-apocalyptic subgenre on the Horror Movie Supplement sometime in the future. So it's definitely in a subgenre that is pretty well known, even though it itself might not be that well known. And I knew about about as much as I've told you right now. Basically, it's a post-apocalyptic movie. It's probably up my alley, and it's got some decent stars in it. We'll explain those in a minute. But that's all I knew going in. Didn't check out anything else. And did I like it? Did I hate it? Let's find out. Like I said, the movie that we're talking about today is The Domestics. The Domestics came out in 2018 and was written and directed by a man named Mike P. Nelson, who has done some other work. He did one of the segments of VHS 85. I don't know off the top of my head which segment it was. He did the Wrong Turn remake, the 2021 remake of it, for better or for worse. So he is an experienced director. He has done other work, not a first-time thing. But he's not a super well-known guy. He's not a super well-known name or a household name, especially even in the horror community. But so I didn't really know what I'd be getting into with him necessarily, but we're going to go ahead and dig into it right now. If you haven't seen it before, the movie's set in a post-apocalyptic future where the U.S. government has killed most of the population for reasons unknown via some sort of toxin, and the people who are immune to it have survived and reshaped society, many of which are acting normally, but many of which have taken into forming various gangs in various locations around the country, making for a very dangerous situation. And our protagonists are a married couple, a husband and wife, who are trying to get to the wife's family in Milwaukee to go and be with her parents, and their trip is fraught with danger and hijinks definitely abound. And we'll stop there so as to not spoil it for anybody. But the movie has a really strong premise. Now, the premise may not be the most original one. Post-apocalyptic movies, not necessarily, like I said, they're very common now enough, so I'm going to give them their own subgenre. But this movie's premise is strong, and it is an interesting take on it. Even if it does wear its influences on its sleeve, which I actually liked, the movie has a cool idea. It starts out with a really cool opening where you see U.S. planes dropping this black toxin on everybody and basically causing this post-apocalyptic scenario where they've tried to kill everybody, whether it's to reduce the strain on resources or if it's something else that's motivating it. It's a little unclear, but it's a very dramatic opening. It really sets the tone early that this movie's going to go places and be very, edgy and confrontational in what it's doing and what it's saying, which will prepare you for the violence that comes later on in the movie. And I thought that was good. I think that the movie is setting the tone early, and then you're following it up with kind of admittedly kind of a lot of exposition from this radio disc jockey who's broadcasting and kind of filling you in on what's going on in the country, filling in the audience on what the country's status is like, explaining all the various gangs and their locations, and kind of giving you a download on what the situation is like and what is apparently kind of a near future, and the time period the movie takes place in doesn't feel like it's very long after this initial inciting incident, like at most like a year or two. It's fairly recent. Like, so the society hasn't completely broken down yet. Things look relatively familiar for the most part. Structures have been looted and stuff like that, but it's not like it's decayed or anything like that. Things are still relatively intact. It's just that people have kind of become different, more feral, more dangerous, more violent, etc., as a result of surviving this purge, if you will. And speaking of the purge, that's what this movie's doing. It's very, very clear that this movie is setting these various gangs, and they wear these ridiculous costumes and stuff like that. And it's very much like the Purge meets the Warriors. And I don't even think it's trying to hide that. I think it's trying to do that. And it's got a little bit of Mad Max thrown in there for good measure. There's some Mad Max looking kind of characters in there too, but really reminded me a lot of the Warriors and the Purge, and not necessarily in a bad way. These various gangs and their different ideologies and their different territories and stuff like that is a major part of the movie, and it's a major strength of the movie too. It's really interesting to see how these different factions have evolved, for lack of a better word, as a result of what's happened, and how their societies operate and what their values are, and how dangerous they are and how violent they are. That is a big driving force of the movie, and it's probably one of the best parts of the movie. And it's interesting because on the one hand you have these gangs that are devolved into their baser nature, and on the other hand you have what I'll call normies, these people that are kind of trying to live life for the most part as normally as they could before all this happened, but they have to carry guns and have to protect themselves and have defenses and stuff like that because of these other people. It's an interesting perspective, and it's interesting because you're dropped into this with a little bit of exposition to set it up, but for the most part just kind of trying to play catch up and figure out what's going on, how people are, and what's going on. And not for nothing, but they don't even really delve too much into like what the infrastructure is like of society. Like, they do give you hints, like there's drinking of bottled water, using bottled water for dishes and stuff like that. So maybe water's not running, and there's a generator that's giving power, stuff like that. So there's that power, and yet, like, our hero looks really good. His hair is cut and clean, and he's clean shaven and stuff like that. So it's not clear how many amenities they've had to do without, and how much things have changed, and how much stuff still works. Like, there's a radio station, for example, and you get the impression there's no really any TV anymore and stuff like that. So, but there is power, generally speaking. And so, gas is a commodity, but it's not like Road Warrior or Mad Max things where it's like the most valuable thing. So a little unclear on that, but that's not really the point of the movie. So it's okay. It's not something I found myself really struggling with. It was just something I thought was noteworthy. And the movie seems much more focused on this particular couple and their navigation through America and trying to avoid these gangs to try to get to their destination. And one of the things that works is the couple is being played by Kate Bosworth, who's nobody's favorite Lois Lane, and Tyler Hoechlin. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that name right, probably not, but he's nobody's favorite Superman, although he's a very good Superman. But it's kind of Lois and Clark again, going together. They are not in the same Superman project together, but if I was kind of a fun thing to see a Lois Lane and Superman together in this movie as a married couple, and they're good. I like those actors quite a bit. Both of them are very good. I like Kate Bosworth a lot, actually. So they've got some strong acting leads. Lance Reddick is in the movie, and when he pops in, he's always good. Rest in peace, Lance Reddick. He's always good, and he's great here. He brings the energy, and he's got his own family. The family they run across, and the family, that whole part with the family just infuses this movie with energy. The kid, his son in the movie, is fantastic. He's great, and they are an interesting family. I don't want to spoil for you where that goes, but it's interesting because he's kind of an ally for them, and he just brings it. Lance Reddick is always a welcome face to see. David Dastmalchian shows up as this kind of weirdly funny, dangerous guy who gets hinted at in the every present foreshadowing of the radio, and he also is always a welcome sight to see. He doesn't get a whole lot to do here, but what he does is very memorable. And then you've got all these other actors. Everybody in the movie is bringing solid to good work. There's a lot of big characters, like outrageous, like over the top characters that are a lot of fun, and they're balanced out by these other characters that are rather grounded and normal. So it's not like it never goes completely Warriors or completely like Mad Max and everything's just kind of crazy. There's this counterbalance of normal people trying to live normal lives, and that counterbalance works really, really well to set a tone that feels a little more authentic or grounded and not quite so futuristic, post-apocalyptic, over the top crazy like the Warriors or something like that. So I thought that was a nice balance of that. It's a compliment to the film to say that they really did balance out the big characters, the outrageous personalities with these more grounded and realistic characters. And it made me able to relate to the movie quite a bit more and get into it quite a bit more. And then, of course, when the hijinks abound and all the gore hits and the violence hits and the action hits, it's welcome. It's welcome because it's kind of been hinting at this, and you get splashes of it here and there, and then for it to go all out at the end is great. And for somebody like me who likes gore and like violence and action and stuff like that, it was really hitting the nail on the head. Steve was right. That's up my alley. Here's where I get off the train. It's the script. So even with all the stuff that's being done right, it's paced well, it's directed well, the acting is really good, it's solid to really good, and the setup, the premise is all solid. Everything's good there, but the script itself is flimsy. It needed to be tightened up. There are a couple of minor things I mentioned, like the radio, and it's like the clunky exposition and foreshadowing. There's a few things that get set up early in the movie, like these ideas that don't ever pay off. They're like these loose threads, like Chekhov's loose threads that never really pay off towards the end. And there's a lot of stuff that's kind of just told to you. And the biggest problem with this movie, like I like Kate Bosworth a lot. I think she's very good. I'm a fan. And she is not a likable person in this movie for over two-thirds of the movie until the end, to the last 25 minutes or so. She is not a likable person, and you don't really get her. Kate Bosworth has effortless charm. She's very charming, and they don't use that at all for most of this movie. She's just not likable. And so the premise is that this husband and wife have been going through marital problems, and they were kind of going through a divorce, and then this whole thing happened with the poisoning, and they were stuck with each other kind of, and they just don't get along anymore. But yet he is risking everything to try to help her get to her parents, even though they're really not connecting anymore. Although you get the impression he really wants to try to make it work, and she's out on it. And you're not really buying this relationship. You're not buying that they would want to be together. You're not really accepting that that he would risk his life for her like in this way. It just, there's not really a lot of chemistry between them, and there's not supposed to be, because they're supposed to be, estranged and stuff like that. So I get that. I understand that. But the movie kind of hinges on this premise that he's going to help her get to her parents, and he's going to sacrifice all this stuff for her, and she's kind of a jerk. And you just like, why would you do this, man? Like, why would you be helping her? Let her go on her own. Like, just call it, call the relationship. But you kind of have to buy into this, and the script doesn't really give you a reason to. It doesn't show you anything. It doesn't show you like past flashbacks of when they were happy. It talks a little bit about it, gives you some dialogue about it to kind of fill in the blanks, but you never buy into it. And it's a problem because you really need to like Kate. Like, you like Tyler Hoechlin. You like him in the movie because he's kind of presented as a good guy who's trying to make things work and everything like that. But you don't buy into Kate. You don't like her very much until you get towards the end of the movie where things shift. She goes from being this weak character who like literally covers her ears when violence has to happen and doesn't do anything to help. She just complains and she doesn't help anything. She's not proactive at all. And she's kind of rude, and she's just not helpful. And you kind of hate her. And then she becomes kind of a badass at the end. She like a switch gets flipped, and she's suddenly involved and proactive and making things happen and being a badass. And it's cool, but there's no explanation for the shift. Like, she gets one like 2-minute lesson in how to shoot, and suddenly she's a marksman. And I kept waiting for there to be something kind of like in You're Next with Erin, and how she has this survivalist background. I kept waiting for something like that with Kate's character to be an explanation for why she actually had the skills and stuff like that. And it was never there. It was never there. It never really explained it. So it just kind of shifts. And it's good. It's fun. That ending is fun. I really enjoyed the ending. But it's not explained. It's not earned. It's not earned at all. And it's a major, major problem with the script. Like I said, the script has exposition issues, and it has motivation issues. Like, you don't understand the husband's motivation for trying to help Kate. You don't understand Kate's motivation or how she suddenly switches and goes from being a weak-willed person who can't do anything to being somebody who can handle everything. There's no motivation or explanation for that. There's a character who sells somebody out, not really very good explanation for that. There's a character that's following them around, that's kind of stalking them, and you're it's kind of hinted that maybe she has an infatuation with one of them, but it's not really explained, and you just kind of have to roll with that. There's a lot of characters who are doing things without explanation as to why they're doing it. There's no exposition explaining it, and there's no film reason. They're not shown why they're doing these things, or at least not in a way that makes a lot of sense. And you just kind of have to roll with that. It's not a deal breaker, but it's frustrating. It's frustrating throughout the runtime of this movie that you don't know why people are doing the things they're doing. There's no understanding for the motivation, and it's all script. Honestly, again, good idea, good looking movie, well directed, good actors. Everything here has the ingredients to be a really, really good movie if you just give the script a rewrite. It's not even like you have to do major change to it. Just tighten things up a little bit. Maybe lose a character or two if you can't explain what they're there for, and just give the movie a little bit of a tightening up. Give that script a little bit of a tightening up. Make things a little bit more clear why things are happening. Motivation. Give some motivations to the characters. This is not that hard to do. It wouldn't be easy, but it's not that hard to do. And it was a problem for me. It was a big problem for me. But was it a big enough problem to not make it syllabus worthy? Well, let's find out. So, is the domestic syllabus worthy? No, no, it's not. It has a really cool premise and it has good action and gore. Steve was right. It really did scratch my itch. It was a fun movie to watch. Overall, I think it was well made. I think it's well acted. The pacing's good. The action's good. The violence and the gore is good. All that stuff is working for me, but that script is a problem, man. It's like the movie wants to can't figure out what it wants to say. It wants to say something, or at least you think it should be wanting to say something, but it's just kind of all over the place. You don't know why anybody's doing anything they're doing. You don't know what's going on or why it's going on. I mean, you understand the basic general premise, but like, why are they trying to get to her parents? Like, they explain it in dialogue, but it doesn't really ring very true. And especially when you kind of go on and get more details about it, you're like, why are you going? Why are you doing that? I found myself asking why a lot in this movie. The script needed to be able to answer those questions for me. Kate Bosworth deserved a better character. Like, at the end, she's fantastic. I like her character very much at the end. Unfortunately, I'm spending an hour plus not liking her character until we get to that point. And it's a disappointment because A, I like Kate Bosworth and she deserves better. B, I like this movie and I wanted it to be better. I wanted it to give me some stuff to buy into this. It's funny, we when I'm recording this right now, I've just done the folklore video, and I talked in the folklore video about a lot of movies having this drama aspect to it, these interpersonal relationships that are really compelling, so that even if you removed all the supernatural stuff, the drama would be compelling enough. This movie is the opposite of that. You have this marital drama stuff that if you didn't have the gangs and the weird stuff and the violence and the post-apocalyptic setting, would not be compelling at all. It'd be boring. You wouldn't get it. It would be a terrible, terrible movie. And it's really wanting this. It's really wanting to sell this drama to you, and it's not doing it. And it has the actors to do it, and it has a director that I feel like should be able to do, but he's also the writer. And he missed the mark on this one. He missed the mark on selling me on the drama. It's a problem that needed to be fixed, and it was one that keeps it from being syllabus worthy for me. Now, it might just be for me because this movie doesn't seem like it's been seen a lot. This is a little seen movie from what I can tell, but the people who have seen it, and people, especially people who've reviewed it, really, really like it. And I liked it. I had a fun time. But they really, really like it. So other people might say it's syllabus worthy. And hey, that's cool. You know me. I don't tell people how to do their syllabus. But for my syllabus, it misses the mark. That script needed to be tightened up. And it's so close. It's so close to being there because all the other elements are really, really working for me. So it's a bummer that it doesn't have a tighter script and that somebody didn't take the time to go, and you know what? Let's work on this relationship, this central relationship. It's important. We need to sell it to the audience. And they didn't do that. But it's still worth a watch. I still think it's fine. Like, knowing that going in may help you to be prepared that you're going to be asking questions about why characters are doing something. If you can roll with that and have a good time with the action and the violence and stuff that's going on, and this all these different gangs and their different personalities and stuff like that, and these wild characters, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and I think you get behind it if you can roll with the script's shortcomings. And that's the big key. So that's my caveat on that, and that is my thoughts on The Domestics. So If you have seen it, let me know what you think, because I'd be curious to see your thoughts on this. Steve, I know your thoughts on it already, but if everybody else has seen this one, again, it's not a lot of people who've seen it. Seems like it's a really under the radar movie. It does deserve more attention than that. It just doesn't deserve the syllabus. That's my thoughts on it. And now I deserve to read a horror Trivial Pursuit card, because it's that time where I try to answer something on camera and see if I can answer it and hopefully don't embarrass myself. And because this movie is called The Domestics, I kind of want to do the international category, because I just think for some reason that's funny, domestic and international. So here's the question. In what European country is the prestigious Tanz Dance Academy in 1977 Suspiria located? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. I love me some Suspiria. We have talked about Suspiria on the channel. We've reviewed it. We've gone over it. We've also referenced it other times. I love the original. I love the remake of it. I don't know that the remake's set in the same place, but I know the 1977 one. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. But that movie, if you haven't seen it, it's kind of a horror must. It's maybe slightly off the beaten path. It's not as mainstream as like Friday the 13th or The Shining or something like that. But it, in my opinion, kind of a horror must. It's not for everybody. It's very artsy, and it's Dario Argento, and we've talked a little bit about Argento. We've talked about a lot of his movies. We're going to talk a lot more about him in the future, by the way. And he has a certain style, and that's the thing. Style. Suspiria is a stylish movie, and even if you don't like the plot, or if you can't understand the plot, which would be understandable, the style, the look of it is just magnificent. I think everybody would agree on that. I have a lot to say about Suspiria, and I've said it already, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about that here, but I'm giving you some time to think about this, because I'm 99% sure I know this one. I'm almost positive. I have one little thought, but I'll get to that one. I'm going to go ahead and give my answer, but lock in your answer, because I'll give my answer now. I'll jump to it. So lock in your answer. My answer is Germany. Like, in the back of my head, I'm thinking maybe Austria, but I'm going to go Germany. I'm like 99% sure that it's Germany, that the academy is in Germany. So let's check the card and find out. Germany, yeah. Like I said, I started to talk myself out of it a little bit. Maybe it was Austria. No, it was not Austria. And I have a habit of talking myself out of things and then trying to ignore that. So stuck with my original answer. Germany was correct. Did you guys know that? I'm guessing a lot of you know Suspiria. Probably know it really well. There's a lot of big fans of their horror fans tend to really like it. So if you knew Suspiria, you probably knew Germany. But if you didn't and you guessed, what did you guess? Did you guess Austria? Did you guess France? Those would be some logical guesses, I think. But no, it was Germany. I got it right. Hopefully you did too. Thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you, Steve, for this recommendation. I think it was a lot of fun. It just misses the mark for me, but it is definitely worth watching. So everybody else, check it out. And let me know if you got other suggestions, other recommendations for me. If it's something I haven't seen, that's horror related, I may check it out in a future video. So by all means, get down in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are on this movie and on other movies that maybe are similar or something like that, or even different. Who cares? Just give me recommendations. I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying you guys. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, guys. Until next week, when we talk about something completely different, I will just say, class dismissed.